evening's webinar on Facebook Live, The Basics. My name's Tom Geldard and I'm Director of Communications and Media at Chelmsford Diocese. And before we start, I'd like to introduce two of my colleagues, James Cottis, who works with us closely at the diocese on our digital communications and websites, and also supports many churches across our diocese with digital communications. And Alan Moss, who's a curate in East London, who also is working with us at the moment to support churches in online church, and has been instrumental in setting up this programme of webinars. It's quite a straightforward webinar this evening. It's a special one that we've put on, or that we've brought forward, reflecting the fact that many churches are now moving back to online worship, and to try and cater for people who may be looking at using video or live streaming for the first time. And so we make no apologies this evening for how basic we're going to be, although we'll obviously have questions and discussion if you have any sort of questions on the back of that. If people could stay muted throughout, and then obviously if you're coming in to ask a question or anything, then we can unmute at that point. It just stops there being excess background noise on the webinar, etc. We'll try and do this quite informally. So if you've got questions as I'm going along, though, I'll pause after each stage so that we can deal with anything that's coming up and try to deal with it. I'm going to add a slight caveat before we start. Is you notice we let you in slightly late, and that was because for some reason my work computer stopped working and was blocking me getting on Zoom. So I'm now doing this from an iPad Pro. So fingers crossed I can do everything I was planning to do, although you may note that there's no slides tonight, and that's one of the reasons. But most of it tonight is going to be live demonstration anyway. So all being well, it should work. Okay, in terms of the things we're going to go through, we're going to talk a little bit to start with about setting up a page on Facebook. Many of your churches may already have a page, but we'll just talk a little bit about what a Facebook page is, and why that's a good place for you to do your Facebook Lives and indeed put other content. I'll then show you how you can set up a Facebook page, and then we'll look at how you go live and do a Facebook Live, how you can schedule the Facebook Live, and also how you can just do it. And we'll look at two ways you can do a Facebook Live. We'll look at one where you do it through your webcam on your computer, and then we'll look at how you do it on a mobile phone. And obviously if you're doing it on a webcam on a computer, that sort of works better for when you've got one person addressing a camera, whereas on a phone you can use that as a more conventional camera and film a group of people leading worship. So that's how things will pan out this evening. Let's start off, and this is where hopefully technology is going to behave for the first time. I'm now going to attempt to share my screen, and we'll start off by looking a little bit at what a Facebook page is about. Okay, so okay, can people see that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, Tom.
Yeah, great. Okay, so let's have a look. We want to start on this. Page. So what we're looking at here is the Diocese of Chelmsford Facebook page. But if you've got a personal Facebook page, if you look at the row along the top, it will be where you've got the Facebook logo in the top left-hand corner, and then the little house and all that sort of things at the very top of the Facebook page. You will see you have similar icons along there. And to create a Facebook page, you touch the plus icon and you get a drop-down menu, and that invites you to create a page, which is loading up here. Now, a page is different from your normal sort of personal Facebook page, which is called by Facebook a profile. And profiles belong to individual people. What it's important though for your, if you're wanting to use Facebook for the first time as your church, or you're wanting to do live videos, it's better for you to have a page rather than to set up a personal profile for your church, because they really are intended more for individuals rather than for organizations or businesses. There are various advantages to having a page over a personal profile, and one of the most important ones is that you can have multiple administrators and editors. That, as we'll talk about a little bit later, is actually quite important, not least for safeguarding reasons, because people will interact with you, and it's quite important to have more than one person on an account, so that any conversations, etc., that happen, particularly with young or vulnerable people, there are multiple people within those conversations, so you can't sort of expose individuals to difficulties, etc. So, but it is also good practice. It means that, for example, if someone leaves the church, there are multiple people who have access to the page. There are other advantages as well. There are more publishing tools in a Facebook page. You can do things like schedule posts to go out at certain times. There's also analytics features. So you need to create a page. And the way to do that is actually to start off in your own personal Facebook, as I sort of just demonstrated there. So you go to your normal Facebook page, and then you click that plus button that I touched, and you get this information here. And then you just start to fill that out, basically. You put a page name in up here, and you put in a category, and you start typing, and it will come up with a category, and then you can describe your page and what it's for, etc. You can upload pictures up here, and basically you give it, answer its questions and give it the information you want, and then you've got a page that has been created. Now, I won't go through and do all that now, and I'll just do the usual sort of Blue Peter. Here's one I created earlier, and this is a page I built specifically for tonight, although no doubt we will make use of it for doing similar demonstrations in future. But I didn't want to use the diocese one as a, I didn't want to, when we go live shortly, I didn't want us to be broadcasting to all followers on the diocese Facebook. Okay, so this is the page that we've built for this evening, and you can see now on the left-hand side there are various tools and resources that you can use. And actually, if you go into settings, which it's not, we are. You can add people to page roles here, which allows you to basically search for people on Facebook and then add them to the page so that they can administer it as well. Okay, so once you've got your page, I'll just go back to it. It's very easy to do a Facebook Live from here, which will then just broadcast straight on to your Facebook page. You scroll down to just below create post here, and you can see you've got various things, including create live. And we just wait for that to load up. Okay, and then you'll see when you get here that there are various options for going live. The very easiest one is to click use camera here. Now it says there's a camera issue, and the reason there's a camera issue here is because I'm actually using the camera at the moment for Zoom, so we won't be able to actually show you doing that. But actually, once you've done that, all you would need to do to go live on the left hand side here is put a title in and the title again, or a description, sorry, and then you get a button down here that comes up. We can't go live here because we've got a camera issue, and you hit go live, and that's it. Then you are broadcasting live on your Facebook page. So it's really easy and straightforward to do. There are some other options on here, including to schedule a live video, and when you do this, it allows you then to basically to advertise to people on your Facebook page who follow you on Facebook that you're going to be doing a live video at a certain time, which is obviously important in promoting your video. We'll talk a little bit more about promotion later on. There's also something here called a stream key, which allows you to use other software, including Zoom, for example, to connect that up to Facebook so that you can broadcast live on Facebook from other software on the internet. But we want to stay with the basics tonight. What I showed you a moment ago, where you literally just click that go live button using camera, is a really easy and quick way to get yourself doing live video. So I'm going to pause there for a second and stop screen broadcasting. Has that worked? Am I back on? I can see on my phone next to me that I am now back. Okay. Has anyone got any? Has anyone got questions about anything that we've said there so far? James, because I'm on the iPad, I'm not seeing questions popping up, etc. So if you're able to,
yeah, that's fine. If anyone has any questions they want to ask, they can raise their hands. If you click in the reactions toolbar at the bottom, that will raise your hand, and we'll get through to you. Robin's got a question now. Robin, I'll just move you on there.
Yes. So what you've just been saying, I'm sitting at the back of church at 10:25, ready for a 10:30 service. Yeah. Am I connected by 4G, or must I be connected by hard wire?
Either. So we'd always recommend, if you can, going with a broadband connection or an internet connection, sort of traditional internet connection. But obviously, a lot of churches are unable to get them. So the key then is to make sure that you test beforehand that the 4G is going to be good enough. James and I did a service on 4G from Chelmsford Cathedral because the internet went down at the last minute recently, and it worked fine, but it does depend on having a decent signal. There is additional equipment you can buy to boost your signal as well. But yeah, these are very much things you need to sort of test out beforehand to make sure that they're going to work. Anything to add to that, James?
I was going to say, the other thing to also remember, if you are on a 4G connection, is your data usage, because you're streaming and video, it will be a lot more than standard, browsing the internet, for example. So that's just also something else to take into consideration. If you have unlimited data, that's not too much of a problem, but it is just something to bear in mind as well. A Wi-Fi or a standard connected connection will always be better. But yes, I do appreciate sometimes 4G or even 5G is an option. But yeah, it's just to bear in mind the data usage on that as well.
Okay, any other questions at this stage?
I think Marion had a
you were saying about setting up other people. So you've got admin and editor. What's the difference?
the admin will have more rights on the page and can, I think I'm right, and jump in if I'm getting this wrong, James. Basically, an admin will have more rights on the page, so they may be able to add other people to the page as well, whereas an editor can add content to the page.
Okay,
yeah, that's exactly it. The main role being the admin just allows people to basically can add people, whereas an editor can't. I've dropped a quick link into the chat as well, which has it's on Facebook's website, has a difference between the page roles and what they can do as well, so that might be helpful.
Thank you.
Jane's got a question as well.
Yes, do you have to have a Facebook account to see a Facebook Live, or can you see it without? Because a lot of my folks are really anti-Facebook and very nervous about it and don't want to join it.
Okay, yeah, you can actually, although Facebook isn't very friendly in letting you. So if you send the link out to Facebook, so it loads Facebook out in a browser and it puts a big box up telling you to log in or set up an account, you can actually close that box and just carry on looking. But it isn't very friendly, because obviously Facebook are quite sort of assertively trying to make people engage and sign up, etc. But you can do it. The other thing you can do, which I'll show you in a bit, is you can embed a Facebook video into a web page, which then you don't have that problem. But I'll show you how to do that in the section after the next one.
Tom, could I just say that half of my congregation don't have Facebook, but they enter it via Google?
Yes. Yeah, so I presume that's the same thing, Marion, that you can search for it and then through the web browser, and then it will bring up it as a web page.
Yeah, that's correct. You can. Yeah, you don't need a Facebook page to be able to access it, but it's they prefer you if you did. But yeah, it's you can like say Tom said, you can embed it on a web page as well. Does anyone else have any questions?
Okay.
Wendy, did you have a question?
Wendy.
Yes, please. Yeah. Can I ask you sort of about costs? How much does it cost to set up the Facebook page, and do we have running costs while we're using it?
It doesn't cost anything to set up a Facebook page. So the only running costs, therefore, are going to be for any data usage. So, for example, most broadband providers, traditional internet providers, will not charge for per unit of data anymore. You'll pay a fixed cost. But if you are using 4G or even 5G, you can get unlimited packages, but mostly you will be either you can get pay as you go, where you will, especially if you're streaming video, that probably isn't advisable because you will use up quite a lot of data, or you can buy you can pay a contracted amount for a certain number of gigabytes per month, basically. And you will burn through data on a mobile if you are using 4G or 5G. It will use quite a lot, because you're basically video is one of the sort of highest demands on data.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm now going to show sort of another way to go live on Facebook, and I'm going to attempt to show you doing it on a telephone, on a mobile phone, through the Facebook app on a mobile phone. And again, it's worth saying, once you've set up your page, you will always be able to see it when you go into your own Facebook on the personal profile or the personal account you set it up on. And that is that's the way to set up a page, is you go in through your personal profile, and then once you've done that, that's where you find the church's account. And if you add someone else in your church, when they go into their own Facebook, they will also be able to go into the menu on their Facebook page and find the church's account. So so that's where it sits, and that's how people get into it. Okay, so I'm going to now I'm now going to use my phone, and I'm going to okay, so as you can see, here's my phone, and I'm now going to go into the Facebook app. Okay, and then I'm into this training page that I set up again. Okay, and I'm going to scroll down the page. Okay, and then you can see in the middle of the page on the right hand side under create a post is live. Okay, now I'm going to turn my phone around. Actually, I'm not until I go live. Right, okay, so now now you can see my daughter is sending WhatsApp messages, which you can all see. So I'm now going to turn my phone around because it's best if you're filming. Sorry, it probably doesn't help that I'm pointing it at the computers and it all looks a little odd. So you can now see a picture that my son drew. Okay, so we're now ready to go live, and it is that simple. You're best to film in landscape if you're filming people, basically, and or a service or something. And we just touch this blue button on the right hand side, and it says it's starting live video. And it will go live from there. And once it's gone live, you'll then be broadcasting on your Facebook page, basically. Taking a little time to get going. I suspect that might be because of the signal in here, it's as simple as that to start doing Facebook Live, and then people will be able to see it on your Facebook. So I'm gonna stop that and bring that back. Okay, in a moment then, I will go on to talk about how do you let people know about your live videos, but that's how straightforward it is to do a Facebook Live on a phone. James, should we pause for any more questions about that?
Yeah, so if anyone's got any questions, drop them in the Ravi's got a question. Yeah, did you want to ask that, Ravi?
Hi.
Yes, hi. When we do this live as like landscape, but our congregation doesn't see them, people watch it on television and mobile, so the orientation, it comes only upside down, so then you have to see something like that. You have to turn it like that, so that's how they find it hard. So how do we fix that problem? Thank you.
James, do jump in if because I've not come across this one on Facebook Live before. I think one key is testing and making sure that everything is working beforehand. And actually, when you do go live, you can set it so that you can only see it yourself to start with. I have experienced that on other things. I've experienced it on Zoom, actually, where someone ends up being upside down, and when you keep turning the device around the right way, they still flip to upside down. Any thoughts on that, James?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's going to be a setting also on the device, I suspect. I haven't seen that myself, but I suspect that's what it is. I've seen it with some other video stuff and photos again. When you've taken a photo, sometimes it comes out sideways. It's to do with the metadata. So it might be a setting or something that just needs to be addressed.
Okay. Any other Yeah, so Marian's saying it's because the screen is locked, and actually that can be an issue. Let me. So basically, within your settings on your phone, you'll have a little icon which is a screen lock, and you'll know that it's on if you turn your screen over onto its side. Ravi, are you experiencing this on the Zoom call rather than on Facebook Live?
It's only a Facebook Live,
Right.
broadcasting from the church service. When you watch it on the mobile phone, then as you turn, then it turns. But many of them do watch on Sunday, on television. So that was the main issue.
Yeah.
So we don't know how to fix that. So yeah.
Okay, we'll have a look into that to see whether, when we send the follow-up email, to see whether any, that is there's a common problem, but it's not one I've seen on Facebook Live before. So, but I'm sure there'll be something out there about it.
Yeah, what you could try is see if there's anyone else with another device, whether you can log into Facebook on another phone, for example, and just try on that, see if it happens again. And if it doesn't, then it's going to be something to do with the device that you're broadcasting from. Yeah. Kirsty also had a question about licenses on Facebook.
Yeah, that was just to ask if we need any licenses or anything specifically, like we do in church when we have CCL or whatever licenses, whether we needed anything for Facebook Live.
Hi, Kirsty. Yeah, so for Facebook and YouTube, it's the same situation basically. The CCLI license, which most churches have, they now have a live streaming add-on as well. And what that allows you to do is to include worship music within your service. Now you can get that worship music in two ways, really. One is to perform it yourself or someone within the church to perform it. And the other is that on the Church Near You website that the Church of England run, there is a library of pre-recorded music that you can use when you've got that license. And in terms of the hymns and worship songs that you can use, they are listed on the CCLI website. All of the information about that is on our online church web page, but you do need that license to include hymns and worship songs and in Facebook Lives or videos on Facebook or YouTube, basically.
Sorry, just to clarify, so we need that, is that only if we're including songs?
Yes, correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're not included, it's copyright basically. So if you're not including any copyrighted material, then you haven't got an issue.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah. Robin's got a question.
Yeah.
Just to come back to where you were, we're in the church. We've got our phone turned around the right way.
Yeah.
We've just gone through the exercise you've done. We've pressed the right button. We're going live.
Yeah.
But it's not as easy as that because the sound is rubbish. We've somehow
got
a decent microphone connected into the iPhone.
Yeah, absolutely. So an iPhone's actually quite good with this. James, I know you've done similar with Bluetooth microphones and stuff like that. Do you want to talk through? Do you want to deal with that one?
Yeah, let me just grab my Spotlight Me. Hang on, I can't find where I've gone now. So I can then show. There we go. So yeah, so I would one of the recommendations I could you can get is, I don't know if I've got enough lead on this one, but this is a microphone that I've picked up that I have on my desk. If you're broadcasting from a laptop or a device like that, this one is a tunnel one. So I spoke about this briefly on Tuesday, and that cost me £15. from Amazon. So that's one option. Another option is to use a Bluetooth device. So if you look up the minister at the front of the service, for example, they might be able to wear a little microphone themselves, and then obviously when you come to the back, and if you're at the back with your phone, for example, you can obviously have a little connection that goes into that as well. And again, you're looking around about sort of 15, 20 pounds, give or take. Obviously you can get a lot more, you can pay a lot more for it, but you can get some decent ones, so around about that sort of money. And obviously if you have an AV set up as well, you might find, so for example, in my church, we have the ability that all the microphones come to an AV desk, and we're just taking a feed out from the AV desk, and that's what we're using to broadcast on. So there are a few different options, just depending on your setup. So from the most basic, from a sort of 10, 15, 20 pounds microphone, right up to obviously having it kind of plugging into your AV system. But yeah, if you are broadcasting from your phone, Robin, a Bluetooth microphone, they're fantastically good, a lot better than they were. But and for something as like cheap as £20, for example, you can kind of test that and get that working.
While we're on equipment, probably the one other thing other than a microphone which might be worth investing in and is very cheap, but can make quite a big difference is a tripod. You can get them either with a setting to hold a mobile phone. Here we go. Here's one to hand. Or you can buy, if you've got a tripod already, you can buy a little attachment that just screws into a conventional tripod, and then you put your phone in there. But that just helps keep it steady when you're filming.
Again, I had this tripod already for my camera, so that was fine. But if you had a standard tripod, and then this little device here again was £20 from Amazon, so it wasn't a huge amount of money, and it's adaptable for all size of phones as well. And obviously, as you can see, it turns portrait and landscape.
Okay, so. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move on to looking at how you might make people know about the live streams that you're doing.
Pat's got a question now. Oh, Pat, you just need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Coming back to just the music, just putting music out. I actually record on Zoom and then it goes onto Facebook and onto their YouTube. It's the music I'm having issues with. I use I Sing Worship, which is on my computer.
Yeah.
I've now got a Bluetooth speaker, which has improved it, but it's still not brilliant. Would I do better with a microphone?
So how are you? What are you? When you say, are you broadcast? Are you the one who's sort of sharing the music with other people online, or is it for you to?
I record it onto Zoom.
Yeah.
It goes onto their Facebook page and YouTube page, but I'm the one that's doing the recording at home, not in a church. So I have no other equipment other than my computer and a Bluetooth speaker.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand exactly.
Just quickly, yeah. Sorry, Pat. When you're sharing you say it's via a Zoom call as well. So you have I Sing Worship. So you're playing that, and you're sharing your screen, audio and stuff on Zoom. Is that correct?
I would put it into Dropbox. They would pick it up and then put it onto their Facebook or YouTube page. So I'm recording at home because I haven't been able to do it on Facebook yet. Now I'm beginning to learn how to do it. But my problem is I haven't used music yet because the quality of the music has been too bad to use. So I've just done services to help. My question is, I've now got, obviously, what was on my computer was not good enough. So I now have a speaker, a YouTube speaker, which is much better quality when I'm actually listening to it. But when I record it, it's still not brilliant.
So it could, yeah, it could be that when you're not sharing, because you have the option when you're sharing. I suspect it's some sort of feedback that it's getting. When you say you're playing IC music, are you playing it on the device that you're sharing
on
it
my
from?
computer. It's actually on my
Yeah.
computer. Downloaded on my recorder. So I'm playing it, but when I try to then put it into a Zoom recording, it's not good enough, I don't think, to put out.
So when you do share music on Zoom that you're playing from, so you're playing it on the iSing Worship website, and then you're basically playing it into Zoom. When you do that, you share, if you share your screen.
Yes, I do that.
Yeah, you then get an option to tick some boxes, one of which is, I think it says optimized for computer audio.
Ah, I haven't found that one. Okay.
Yeah, so if you click on share, you have two options. It says optimize a video clip and share sounds. If you make sure those are ticked, it does hugely improve the sounds. If that doesn't work, the other option you can do is, like I said, this a microphone, for example, like this, again, hugely improves, because what the device might be doing is trying to output. So you could play around with the settings on the bottom of your Zoom section. So in where above the mute and the microphone in the toolbar, if you click on that, you can select a speaker and you can select a microphone. And I would maybe say just play around with the microphone settings and stuff in there. It might be something that just needs tweaking. It might be a bit of trial and error, but that would help. But as a first call, like Tom said, when you do share screen, might be worth just checking on that audio setting there.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay, should we take a look at some sort of options for promotion of your, as in sort of making people aware of your Facebook videos? So I'm going to jump into the screen share on my iPad, and I'm going to go back into Safari. Okay. Okay, so one thing that is really helpful and useful is to make sure, and simple, is to make sure that ahead of your live streams is that you've used all your other communication channels to let people know that you're going to be broadcasting your live video. And one of the best things to do when you're doing that, particularly if you send out, for example, a weekly email from your church to the people on your email list, is just to make them aware of it there, and to paste the link for your Facebook page in your emails. And the way to get your link is you simply you touch the URL, it's called, or the web address, and you copy that, and then you can paste it in. And the web address for your Facebook page will be basically facebook.com/ and then whatever the name of your Facebook page is that you've set it up with. And when you set it up, you basically get a choice, and you're able to create the name of that. So including it in your other communications is really important. We also talked earlier about scheduling posts, which then means that it automatically tells people who are your followers and see your content on their own Facebook that you are going to be going live at a certain time. So you can schedule the post, but you can also just do a Facebook post to tell people that you are going to be broadcasting at a certain time. And I think it's really important to do that a couple of days before, on a regular basis, to remind people that they can watch the service live on your page at that time. And that's really important, that you're doing that on a regular basis before you actually broadcast live. Also encouraging people within your church to make it known on their own Facebook by sharing those posts with their friends so that they're aware. So that's another really useful thing to do. So those are some of the things you can do beforehand. But what you can also do is once your Facebook Live has finished, you can basically leave it there. And when you finish broadcasting, you'll get a choice to either leave the video on your Facebook or to delete it. So if you leave it there, which I'd advise you do, then it will continue to appear in people's Facebook pages after the service is over. So definitely do that. But then the other thing you can do from there is that you can also share it elsewhere. And so I'm going to go to look at some of the videos we've got on the Chelmsford website, and I'm going to show you how you can share the actual videos with people. And the video you can see here is Janet Nichols' Plough Sunday sermon video. And when you click share here, you get some options. So you've got a link. So you might include that in an email. You copy the link and then just paste it into an email. You could also put it on Twitter, for example. You could do a tweet and copy the link and tell people the video from this morning's worship is available on our Facebook page, and you could put that on Twitter. The other thing you can do is you can put it onto your website, and you'll see there something that says embed, and when you touch that, it brings up this, and you just do copy code, and then you can then put that. You can then go over to your website, and you can paste that onto your website, and the video then will actually sit in the website. So if, as people were talking about earlier, you've got concerns that people won't feel comfortable trying to use Facebook because they haven't got an account, etc., then one thing you could do is you could put a video, including as it's playing live. You could put the video on a web page and tell people to watch it, that they could watch it there. Okay, I will stop sharing there, and then we'll take some final questions. James, are you okay?
Yeah, I can see Jane's got a question.
It's not so much a question as just something a friend did, which she found very useful. Because you were saying about having people, members of your church, promote it within their own personal Facebook pages. She started hosting watch parties on Sunday morning, and she found quite a lot of her friends who are not connected with the church started watching the church's feed through her watch parties, which are quite
brilliant.
Like it seemed to work for her.
Yeah, excellent. And within Facebook there is an option to do a watch party. So yeah, those are fairly new and very effective.
Yeah, and they're great tools as well for, especially using things like Facebook for sharing it among our friends who we don't see at church, for example, on a Sunday, getting them to also get the gospel out there to them as well. Anyone else have any questions? Megan's got a question, and then I'll come to Wendy afterwards.
Yeah, when you've done a live on Facebook and it's there, how do you then share that to YouTube?
Okay, so that is Facebook and YouTube are sort of see themselves as competitors of each other. So they don't make that sort of thing. Easy. I think one way you could do it, if you wanted to, is once you've put a video into Facebook, when you're in there, I think if you go into the publishing tools, there is an option to download the video, and that will then give you a video file which you could then upload into YouTube. To be honest, I've never tried to do that because I've never used Facebook Live as a sort of way of filming a video. We often do put videos onto both Facebook and YouTube, but we tend to be pre-recorded videos that we then that we then upload onto both platforms separately. I think there is video software that allows you to go live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. Does OBS allow you to do that, James?
Yeah, OBS does allow you to do that. So once you get more comfortable with using Facebook, for example, you can move on to things like OBS, which basically just gives you a bit more control, and you can stream to YouTube and stream to Facebook at the same time. And that'll be one of the options. And obviously you can do it through Zoom as well. So Zoom will also allow you to share the two. I have just dropped in the chat a link from Facebook's website on how to download it. So exactly as Tom said, you can click on the video, click on the 3 dots next to it, and you can download it. So once you've been live, you can then download the video, and after that you can obviously then upload it to YouTube. Sorry, who else had a question? Wendy, yes.
This is going in advance a bit, but could you actually set up the Lent courses on Facebook to share with the parish and bring them in? So you set up every Monday or something. Can you set up that sort of link?
So if the Lent courses were going to be delivered as a video, yes, you could absolutely. You could schedule a series of videos. And either using the scheduling tool in Facebook, or you could just tell people that you'll be going live every Monday at 10 o'clock. Obviously, we did the webinar on using YouTube the other day as well, both in YouTube and Facebook. You can obviously go live. You can also choose to pre-record and do pre-recorded videos as well. Or you might look at Zoom if you want something a little bit more interactive, so that like this, where people can then come in and ask questions and have discussions, etc. So there are various platforms open to you. One thing we haven't mentioned tonight, which I know some churches have made use of, I know the cathedral has made use of it for its environmental stuff, is Facebook groups. Which allow you basically to you can do videos in Facebook groups, but it's also more of a sort of space for discussion, and that you can have topics in there and that sort of thing. So, but yes, all these platforms are available to do things, and very supportive of doing things like Lent courses.
Yeah, I would also just definitely echo, if you're going to do something like a Lent course, I would say something like Zoom is probably a better platform for it, just for exactly like this, that you can kind of get back and forth kind of conversations going, where obviously when you're doing something with Facebook Live, it's very much one way. So it might not work, which it might be fine for sort of a Sunday service, but actually this gives a little bit more interaction. Does Marion had a question as well? Yeah.
Are you able to tell me how you can link, say, a PDF file into Facebook, so you can open up, so the church service is there? I see other people doing it, and I haven't got the faintest idea. I've tried everything to link in how you get a file onto Facebook so somebody can follow the service.
You can't upload files to Facebook. You can upload images, so it might be a JPEG, but you can't upload a PDF document or a Word document to Facebook. So the only way around it is to maybe if it's on your website, you can upload it to your website, and if the file's there, you can then share that because it's a web link. Or you can use a system like Dropbox or Google Docs, for example, something like that, where you can upload the file to an online platform that way, and then from that you can then share the link to it in Facebook. It will allow you to share a web link, but it won't allow you to upload files. Okay. That's one of the downsides to it. So that would be my recommendation, is to either upload it to your website or upload it to something like Dropbox, and then just take the link and share that in the post, and it will work.
Any other questions?
I can't see anyone with any hands up or anyone waving frantically at me.
Alan is.
Yes.
Yeah, Alan. Good point. Come on in, Alan.
Yeah, just to say, St John's and St James in Romford. I know you probably do this anyway, but we put our orders of service together, particularly when we're doing communions or spiritual communions and stuff, and we we just send it out via an email, because we tend to find particularly a lot of our older members, we've got some in their sort of 80s and 90s who, you know, have no idea about stuff, but they have got an email, because emails have been around for a while now. So, you know, often it's easier just to send out an email, and then we kind of make our presentation on Sunday as such fit, you know, so we're all literally on the same page. But that's just another way of doing it.
Right, thank you, Alan. The one other thing that it's important to mention, particularly if you're looking at doing this sort of thing for the first time, and you'll be aware of it if you're doing it already, is just to make sure that you are following safeguarding guidelines as you start to engage people digitally, because clearly it's a vulnerable space. So, for example, if you are setting up a Facebook page, and I'll signpost all the information about this, but it's important to have multiple editors on there, so that if people start to engage directly with you through Facebook Messenger, that is something that it's a conversation that a single Facebook editor or administrator doesn't end up having with someone themselves. It's important, if you're including people in your content, that you have the sort of necessary, particularly if they're under if they're under 18, that you have the necessary parental permissions, etc. Also, obviously, social media is a place where things can be brought to your attention that you may need to sort of pass on into to your sort of parish safeguarding officer, etc. And so that you're keeping an eye out for that sort of thing. So it is important to be aware of that. On our online church page, which is chelmsford.anglican.org/online church, or more easily, if you just go to the Chelmsford website, it's the main thing on the front page. You will find a section on safeguarding. So if you are getting started with this sort of thing, then please do just make sure you take a look at that and read through the guidelines, which are fairly straightforward, but nevertheless it is useful to do. Does anyone have any questions on that, or indeed anything else before we wrap up this evening?
No, I think we're all good.
Great. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I hope that sort of was useful, but moreover, I hope it's shown you how easy it is to actually get set up and going on Facebook Live, because that was the intention. And what we want to get beyond is the idea that churches need to sort of invest in thousands of pounds worth of equipment and have people who are professional video producers in order to get started with live worship. And actually, if you look around at a lot of the live worship, it doesn't look very polished, but it is very good at bringing people together to worship. And it being polished isn't what it's about. And people are understanding and accepting, and I think possibly even welcome that. So please do give it a go. Even if you're not ready to do it as a church, have a play with it. You can set up a Facebook page and no one will be able to see the videos that you're doing if no one's chosen to follow you at that point. So you can just have a practice and see if it works. Thank you very much, and we will send out a follow-up email for this, and if you were with us on Tuesday for the YouTube and Zoom webinars. And we will also over the coming days be downloading the videos of these sessions and putting them on our website in case it's useful to look through any of the pointers again. Thank you, Alan and James, for your contributions as well this evening, and good night, everyone.